The twilight woods of the Feywild are unnervingly quiet. Suddenly, a low guttural growl vibrates through the trees to your left. You turn, drawing your weapons, eyes locking onto a sleek panther-like silhouette crouching in a bush. Its twin-spiked tentacles twitch in anticipation. You lunge, swinging your weapon with all your might, but you hit nothing but empty air and ferns. The growl didn't come from the bush. It came from right behind you. Welcome back to the Ecological Bestiary, where we treat the D&D Monster Manual like a real-world field guide. I'm your host and Dungeon Master, Dr. Kevin Madison, and today we're tackling one of the most iconic, terrifying, and physically baffling predators in fantasy, the Displacer Beast. How does a six-legged mammal evolve? How do you bend light to create an optical illusion of yourself? To help me figure out this Feywild apex predator, I'm joined by my party of experts, our resident forever DM, and biology teacher, Mike Howout.
Hello there.
Mike. Yes. As Obi-Wan Kenobi. And climate educator and elemental guild master, Rachel Arver.
Hi, everyone.
And finally, Purple Martin expert and anthro bard, Cassie Klein.
Hello.
All right, guys, let's get into the Displacer Beast. So, Mike, you want to take it away as our lore master?
Yeah. Oh, Displacer Beast is such an iconic D&D monstrosity that you have in the realm. And what's really neat about it is its origins. Just like a lot of the other monstrosities from the Monster Manual, there's inspiration from it that pops up in other sci-fi history. And Displacer Beast is not the exception to it as well. So for their inspiration, it actually comes from I think in 1933 sci-fi book called The Black Destroyer, in which the spaceship lands on a planet and they're faced with these tentacled cat-like creatures called the cull. And that's kind of where it first shows up. Where it really shows up in D&D, though, is 1975 in the supplementary material called Greyhawk. And it was described again just like it is. So we haven't seen much variation of Displacer Beast over the years. It was this lean kind of puma-like cat with two thorn-covered tentacles from its shoulders, and it had the ability to appear 3 feet away. And that's kind of key because we see displacement show up later on. So it's just saying it appears 3 feet away. And where it really kind of shows up in the basic set was until 1977 when we see it. But throughout the history of the Displacer Beast, it really hasn't changed. It's been very consistent that they are this beast that originated from the Feywild, and the Fey kind of controlled them, and they were able to escape being a large cat and not wanting to be confined. It got out, and the Fey hunted them with blink dogs. So there's this history of blink dogs versus these cats, which is interesting if we talk about how humans hunted cats along the years using, Rhodesian Ridgeback and things like that. Kind of a neat little history with that. With the beast itself, so Displacer Beast is considered a large monstrosity and a lawful evil. Okay, so it's not chaotic. It's very, it knows what it's doing, and it has a couple of feats, and we'll go with the 2024 rule set, right? So it has avoidance, allows it to make a saving throw and receive half damage, so very similar to a rogue ability. It has displacement. So any attacks against the Displacer Beast has disadvantage because it's projecting an illusion. Multi-tack, and then it also has the tentacles. Doing a little bit digging, there's some great lore over the years as books have been written about the beasts and monstrosities in the world of D&D, and the mated pairs of Displacer Beasts have 2 to 4 kittens that have a full set of teeth. They don't have the tentacles. Those emerge a little bit later in life, but they separate themselves from the pride while they're rearing the kittens. And at about I think it said around 8 months, 4 to 8 months old, that they have sprouted tentacles and they're off to hunt on their own. They are relentless hunters, which is kind of an interesting thing for us to chat about. But they're relentless hunters known for really not giving up on their prey and not really backing down from it. But the big characteristic on them is that displacement. So having that creatures having disadvantage at seeing them, having disadvantage at attacking them, and that originating characteristic of appear 3 feet away.
Have you all played against a Displacer Beast ever? No?
I've used them once or twice, and they are fun to run. I mean, they're not massive. They have dark vision, so they can't speak, but they can understand Sylvan, the a big Fey language. Not a high AC. It's 13. It's not super high. It's not really that high above average, and but they have a decent amount of hit points for being a level 3 monstrosity at 76 hit points. So it's
85.
yeah.
85 hit points? That's more than I have as a 7th level character.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get quite a bit off of them. I've only used them once or twice, but I think they've become a really big fan favorite in the D&D community. And I think also as like just general fans of it, they showed up in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which was really kind of neat when they're in that tournament, right? You see the gelatinous cubes show up, but they use a displacer beast, which is great because they really use that displacer ability. So
It's also in Baldur's Gate 3. There was
mm,
a battle. I could not beat this battle for the longest time. It was and part of it was the Displacer Beast. And then there's also the Feywild module in D&D. I forget what it's called, but there's like this carnival that
the Witch
is
Lake.
yeah, the Witch Lake Carnival. Yeah, and I feel like there is a tent that has like a baby or a young Displacer Beast that parties inevitably want to like adopt or help in some way.
They rolled that out, yeah, a few years ago. They rolled out like the baby animals one. They did it as a fundraiser. The D&D community did it as a fundraiser of like, here's a book of baby animals, owl bears, displacer beasts, dragons. And so it was adorable, but they gave them stat blocks and hit points and things like that. So we started to see them show up. But a good characteristic of them is that they're going to try to get away from their owners and totally be an independent thing, but yeah. So
Alrighty.
about
Well,
you guys, but like I think one of the most interesting characteristics. So I know I'm gonna talk about fur color or fur and coat colors on this one, but 6 legs
yeah.
and tentacles, right? So
Well, let's roll for our science tie-ins, guys. We'll see if we do better than
Oh,
we.
finally
Ooh,
a good roll.
I'm sorry, Rachel.
Oh, God, Mike, we're sick of you.
Did you get it? What is it?
Wow.
What
All
was that,
right.
Mike? Is that a nat 20?
I rolled a nat 20. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Mike, you've been first every single time.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Can I
you've been
defer?
first every single time. Yeah, we believe your die rolls.
You know what? You know what? In
I
the
got a
spirit
3.
of the species that we're covering, I'm gonna roll with disadvantage.
Wow. What a guy. Cassie, what'd you roll?
I rolled a
I
3.
rolled a 19.
I got a 19 also.
I will defer to you because with my leg, your dexterity is going to be higher than mine.
Well, I feel like I just bullied you into letting me going first. Letting me go.
No. I think
Yeah,
it's well deserved.
Rachel goes first. That makes sense. But like Mike, you gotta have some good facts with a 20 and a 19 for sure. And Cassie, what did you get?
I got a 3.
A 3. Okay, I got a 16. So
Yay!
jump in there. So yeah. So Rachel, take it away.
I'm really excited to hear that you're going into fur color because that is not at all what I'm going into. So really cool that these organisms have so many varied things to talk about. When I learned more about the Displacer Beast, I immediately thought of the light mechanism and did a lot of research there because in that story you're referencing, Mike, the story that this is based on, that, how do you pronounce it? The cool?
The cull, yeah.
Cull. They used radio waves. So
Cool.
that they communicated through radio waves. It was very similar to the Displacer Beast. It was a panther-like organism that had these tentacles. And so that immediately set me on my EM spectrum path, where I explored different organisms that it was like this felt like a really fun link to previous episodes we've done because we're talking about things like mimics and camouflage, but we're also talking about different adaptations in relation to light. So I looked into things like electroreception and electrogenesis that sharks and eels do when they're messing with the electric field, because eels produce they produce electricity. It's up to 600 volts. Then I looked into things again like the octopus and I don't want to say too many organisms because maybe you're thinking of the same ones, but I learned a lot about, I hadn't heard some of these concepts like motion dazzle, which is something that zebra and like sardines use, for instance, to distract it's not as much about blending in as it is about their predator not finding them with these
So that's just like
colors.
so many of them are together that it confuses the predator. Is that what that
Yeah,
is?
you just
Yes.
can't tell the head from the tail and who's
Yeah.
who, and you can't single out an individual.
That
It's
shimmer
like-
that
yeah,
Yeah.
just
Which is
throws
why a
it
group
off,
of zebra is called a dazzle.
Wow, cool.
And also a group of dragonflies is called a dazzle.
Ooh.
Okay, I guess this is the new name of our group. But I didn't, yes, Kevin, it's more about confusing. So once the prey moves, so like once a zebra moves, it's really hard to tell exactly where it's going or what it's going to do next. And then I learned about different types of light refraction and camouflage and chromatophores and which are cells that can manipulate the light we see, basically, that change colors and help organisms camouflage and communicate. So I really went down a rabbit hole of the many different ways real world organisms can manipulate their image, whether it's through things like bioluminescence or chromatophores or like messing with our perception of where they are. So Mike, I can't wait to hear about this fur because it's so cool that we went in such different directions.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I went through the idea of their a challenge to see, right? Disadvantage on attacks and disadvantage in perception of them because they're so hard to see and they kind of like displace their environment, right? So I dove into feline coat color. And I went into I found various studies where they studied domesticated cats, or feral cats and things like that, and where they were looking at tiger and lion patterns and breaking up. But in the Displacer Beast, right, we identify them as having this like dark coat color. So they're blending in, right? And we don't really know if they're hunting at day or they're hunting at night. So kind of a neat thing. But what I went into with the coat color was that various studies have been done in Australia and New Zealand about feral cat populations and what happened when they branched off from the introduced gray cats that were put on, Australia or Tasmania or New Zealand, and they branched off and started to develop like tabby coloration and orange coloration, which was really neat to go from. You're going from gray, but now you're getting predominant like orange coat colors that are showing up. A lot of the studies are still trying to pinpoint what would be the driver of it and like why that would happen. But some of the studies noted that the further away that you were getting from populated regions, the white was leaving the coat color and it was starting to become more tabby, more orange, more tans, and blend in. And kind of diving further into that of like, well, wouldn't that be a higher perception on some species? I also stumbled across that there is a lot of the prey species are what they call predator naive, and they haven't really experienced much of those populations, so they just don't recognize them. Which, tying that to the Displacer Beast, right? They're originating from the Feywild, right? There's very few occurrences of them passing into Faerun and being a natural predator of Faerun. They are Feywild. So they would, I guess, we would consider them being an invasive species crossing over. They're fulfilling that role, that ecological role, and taking over another organism's role, taking over its niche or niche, whichever you'd like to say. But I think it's really neat that we see that the breaking up patterns have that give them that elusiveness to, not our real world cat species. We're seeing that on tiger stripes, they're breaking up that pattern. We're seeing that in feral cats. Tabby is the coloration to blend them into their environment, where we would, for me, I would have presumed, like, wow, in a jungle situation, wouldn't black be the way to go for feral cats? But it seems to be orange and tabby, which I think is neat about Displacer Beast, that we're keeping them to, this jungle cat. And for me as a DM, I think I would rework, honestly, their play of the species. Why not make them more tan, make them more orange, make them tabby, have tabby Displacer Beast, right? To make them blend into those urbanized environments. And kind of that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah. I had similar. I was thinking about the sort of melanistic black coloration in the large cats within the Felidae, the family of cats in the world. So I was thinking primarily about jaguars and leopards, which can have that black coat. But having worked at the Bronx Zoo and gone to a lot of zoos where you would see black leopard, for example, if you look really closely at them, you can still see the spots, right? The spotted pattern under certain light, which is really cool to kind of see that, underlying pattern that the melanism is kind of overarching to some degree. But I think overall with a Displacer Beast, I was thinking more of a couple different cats. So one of them is the Snow Leopard, just because it's such an ambush predator. It's kind of mysterious in the Himalayas and such. In my mind, that's almost like the Feywild. And it does have the that tail for counterbalance. And it started making me think about those tentacles, if they're used for like counterbalancing things a little bit. And then the other one I thought about is not a big cat, but is the clouded leopard. I think that is a small cat, just because I read that they have their paws can reverse and allow them to hold on to trees and things, and even like hang from branches, and like, I don't know if it like deliberately do this, but like ambush in that way.
Oh my
So yeah,
God,
Almost like a Rakshasta.
they are so cute.
clouded
The
leopards.
clouded leopard. Oh,
Yeah.
they're so
They're
little.
so cute. Yeah.
They are definitely big cat energy in a little cat body. For sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
What about you, Cassie? Where'd you go with all this?
I was thinking along the lines of the tentacles too. So this is a cat. We can all agree it's cat-ish, but it's got 6 legs and tentacles, which is very insecty, which I thought was interesting. But going from tentacles, so cats usually have whiskers so that they can kind of like feel around and explore their environment. And I'm wondering if, because this cat tries to be so ambushy, even more so than a regular cat species, if the tentacles are used as extended whiskers, maybe to try to figure out like where it's going and when nobody can see it. So my brain went there, and it also went to a little bit of the coloration, kind of jumping off what Rachel was saying earlier, where Kevin introduced me as a purple martin person. They have iridescent feathers, where they appear to be all black, but in the sunlight they kind of shine a bluish purple color. At least the males do. That's how they got their name, purple martin. And a lot of bird coloring works that way, where it depends on the angle of refraction of the light off of their feather in order for them to have that color. Most birds that shine blue are actually gray, and they just kind of look blue in the sun. Peacocks are my favorite example. When they get wet, they look green because the refraction angle changes when they're wet. Because peacocks get stuck in the rain all the time, and you see them look all like miserable and green instead of blue. So yeah, I was thinking like maybe they have iridescent fur that might help them disappear. I'm a big proponent of, as a cat person, I believe cats can teleport, and also that they are a liquid. So that was
And also that they're what?
a liquid. They fill the shape of their
The
container.
absolutely.
They do have a definite form most of the time, but they fill the shape of their container for sure.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
Love it.
When I was teaching states of matter in 5th grade science, I proposed this question and said, prove me wrong. And it was a fun discussion with my 5th graders learning about states of matter. Led to some interesting questions for sure. But back to the beast. Also thinking, the cats in the wild are typically solitary, but then of course there's lions that form prides. Displacer beasts, I read, tend to live in prides, or at least pairs. So that's very liony. And lions have sexual dimorphism. We can tell males and females apart. The males have the mane, females don't. There's some exceptions, but that's typically what happens. And I'm also thinking maybe the tentacles are similar to like a male mane, where they might be longer or bigger if they're a male, so they can be fancy and show off a little bit for the females. Not sure.
Yeah, I felt it was a little wasted that the tentacles are pretty much described as just for attack. Is that right?
Yeah,
Or-
they're used for an attack, but yeah, it's not necessarily like where the displacement comes from. Although in film, it alludes that like they shake and that's how they displace. But that's for the film. That's for a movie.
Yeah.
They kind of have like a humanoid figure. I'm just looking at the picture, and when you're referencing fur, they do not look furry. They look
It's
like
short. Yeah, it's supposed to be a very short, like coarse matted kind of fur.
Yeah. Getting back to peacocks too, it's kind of peacocky with not their tail. Their train feathers are not their tail feathers, which is a big misconception. But the big long train feathers that the males have that they'll like stand up and shake, and that is sometimes to deter predators and sometimes to attract a female. And so I'm sticking with my males have longer tentacles theory.
I like the idea that we've been talking about like mating rituals has come up. And, like, I feel like it opens like because if every adaptation is just for fighting, because like the combat mechanics of D&D like kind of goes that way, but like there's a missed opportunity to like if you come around the corner and there's two displacer beasts, but they're doing this display with their tentacles or something. It would be super cool
Wow.
to like
shake back and forth.
Cassie, I'm sorry to take it away from the tentacle, but when you were talking about the refraction of light, it reminded me of, have you guys listened to that Radiolab episode? It's like 20 years old at this point, but the colors episode, I'll never forget it. It was like maybe the best podcast episode I've ever listened to, aside from our own. But it talked about, because you said blue, most blue birds aren't actually blue. And then when they get wet, their angle changes, so they look a different color. But in that episode, they talked about how the color blue is so rare in nature and how it, for like thousands of years, wasn't even in our written history. Like we didn't reference the color blue, which made people wonder if our perception of our world is different from how people perceived our world in the past, and how few organisms actually produce the color blue. And I just thought that was so fascinating that came up, that I feel like this podcast has prompted me to learn so much more about the way organisms and I'm already drawn to waves. Like that's my jam anyway. So if light is in the discussion, we're going to talk about light. But it's just so interesting how many different organisms' adaptations revolve around either their manipulation of light or their ability to see in different wavelengths of light that we aren't able to see, or that like their predators or prey aren't able to see.
Yeah, and we do know that most birds see more color than we do and see color differently than we do. So though it's a cat, it's very birdy, this displacer beast, in that maybe its black color isn't black to other displacer beasts or us.
So that was going to be my next, my suggestion there, Cassie, was that what we're looking at is a drawing, right? And we know that in the world of D&D, there's Mordecai is the adventurer that has gone around and has categorized every single organism in the world of D&D and has drawn them in the player manuals and the player books. So I agree with you. I think maybe they're not actually black.
It's just a human deficiency.
Yeah.
Wow.
it's ultraviolet. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, should we get into the real world reveal?
Yeah.
Ready
One
for
day
this?
we're going to guess it. It's going to be so
You
satisfying.
guys have any guesses? Do you want to throw them out there?
Oh,
It's a cat, but that's too obvious. There are like 40 species of cat, I'm gonna go. This is again not narrowing the field down at all. It's actually expanding it, but it's insecty with its 6 legs and tentacles. That feels like antenna. Yeah.
I feel like this feels so different from the picture I'm looking at, but I'm getting like praying mantis energy.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, the 6 legs we haven't really talked about, and why no mammals have 6 legs, and I when I think about it, I'm like the musculature and your internal organs, how would you do it? But obviously insects find a way.
Yeah. I saw this really cool theory on dragons. We're kind of divulging a little bit, but so dragons typically in Western culture have 4 legs and 2 wings, but that would be 6 limbs. Birds have 2 legs and 2 wings, right? So it has 4 legs and 2 wings. So someone had this theory that dragon wings are very similar to bat wings, where they're like legs and wings. So it really only has 4 limbs, and that's how it functions. There's some really good drawings too.
So they're like vestigial features. No, homologous features.
Homologous features.
Homologous features. Wow.
Yeah, I learned that bats, so if humans had the bone structure of bats and you put your arms out to the side and your fingers facing down, they would reach the ground, and that is the bat wing.
Whoa.
Yeah, their digits are super long.
But it's the same, it's homologous because it's the same thing, just like for a totally different purpose.
And whales and cats. Oh my gosh, the Displacer Beast totally has homologous features to us. It has the same ulna and the whatever. We're all the same.
All right. Well, let me share my screen. The real world reveal for this week is the Broadclub Cuttlefish.
No, we've been nowhere near that.
Yeah.
But that makes so much sense.
Here, bear with me. I'll just have this video playing of this thing because like a single image doesn't really give it justice, right? You need to see its shimmering colors. And I know this does not look like at all like a Displacer Beast. So it's got these waving little fins and tentacles, but the main thing that drew me to it was the chromatophores and the ability to like completely disrupt its prey and even predators by like rapidly changing its colors, right? But it also has these 2 special tentacles that can kind of club, so much like those 2 there, you kind of seen them extended there. And it does just feel like it belongs in the Feywild. Magical critter.
Yeah, I mean, like the tentacles for the Displacer Beast it's an attack. It's an attack with it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the cuttlefish did come up a little bit in my research around, those chromatophores, and just like they came up in the same conversation as an octopus would, which is amazing how many of these beasts we've studied that were an octopus, like the bottom line.
I kind of was tempted to stay away from the marine organisms because I feel like there is something so magical about marine organisms, right? Like they seem otherworldly just based on their habitat, their ecosystem, but then also with these crazy alien-like behaviors to us, they lend themselves to fantasy.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. When you said cuttlefish, I wasn't expecting it. And then 2 seconds of thinking about it. Yeah, they change their color rapidly. They don't disappear. They just appear to disappear because they blend in so well and you just don't see them. And they do have those like front grabby tentacles. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Well, honorable mentions to all the other creatures we've discussed because any of them could be a good. But what are some conservation or education tie-ins with the Displacer Beast?
Well, when I'm not kidding, light waves and sound waves were always my favorite unit to teach when I was a science teacher because it is just miraculous that there's this world in front of us that our eyes just can't even like process. And so I really love living in that kind of like magical unknown with students. So we talk a lot about the electromagnetic spectrum and how other organisms can process other types of light. So like a lot of insects and bees can see UV light because it helps them see flowers, or predators like birds and snakes can see infrared because it helps them see heat signatures of their prey. So I really like to use these cameras, these infrared cameras. So they're called FLIR cameras, and they plug right into your phone. And I use these with students as young as kindergartners, where they can, with kindergarten, we did this activity where we were trying to help them understand changes in seasons. So they wore these black and white mittens, and they went outside and just stood in the sun with a different color mitten on each hand. And they could feel that the black mitten absorbed a lot more sunlight, felt a lot warmer. And then we took pictures to collect data to show them, yes, indeed, look at this translation of information. Here's now what you felt matches what we know. And that's just one, like, very elementary, pun intended, way of using this. But I think understanding the way energy moves through our world and the way heat has a signature, that's like I read this physics book one time, 7 Brief Lessons on Physics. It's a wonderful book to introduce you to some of the forces in our world. And one of the lines that really stuck with me is that heat is the signature of time, because things are constantly moving, but heat is the thing that tells you where things were and what they were doing. And so when I would teach about energy, I would always like hit the table really hard and take a before and after picture with this camera to prove, yeah, there's energy being transferred from one object to another and from one form to transformed from one form to another. But anyway, that's my energy pitch. It's super fun to get these FLIR cameras. They're pretty cheap. And just understanding that there are different ways we can use light to help us figure out our world a little bit more is a really cool way to work with students.
Yeah, those are so cool. We had one when I worked at the zoo, and we used it for 2 different things. One was more sustainability. We had a lamp that had like 3 different sections for light bulbs on it. It was like a 3 light bulb lamp. And we put an incandescent light, a regular light bulb, a what was it? The spirally one. I forget now.
Fluorescent.
CFL light. And
Yeah.
then an LED, and then we looked at it with the heat signature, and you can really see the difference in the heat that each of those lights is giving off. We also looked at parrots, because a lot of birds will release heat through their feet. So we can tell like when a bird is getting excited about enrichment, their feet get really hot, and you can actually like see that difference when you look at it, which is really cool.
Horrible.
Awesome. Yeah, the main thing I was thinking about was with the Blink dog and Displacer Beast relationship, and thinking about African painted dogs or wild dogs, and how in a lot of areas they've been vilified by humans, because the way they hunt is kind of tense. They'll chase down their prey and just wait for them to like really lay down from fatigue, and they do begin often consuming them while they're alive. So as a result, humans have, and also tied into like them sometimes taking someone's goats, or at least thinking they might be doing that. So humans in certain parts of Africa have traditionally like killed and burned out their dens, which sounds awful too. But from a conservation thing, there's like some feelings of animosity towards these creatures for how they hunt and how they behave, which is just kind of the way they're evolved. So it is interesting to think about how we conserve animals that do things that humans might judge or feel are inappropriate to their sensibilities.
So for me, where I kind of took a dive into where we could pull this into education and just general public information is, I think we can take a look at a Displacer Beast role as a mesopredator, and mesopredators are actually a really kind of a neat role in the environment. We always hear about the apex predators and those subpredators, but we don't really focus on like that role of the mesopredator. What is that subpredator that gets eaten by the top predator? So we're seeing that the blink dogs and the Displacer Beast kind of go at it, with typically the blink dogs winning out. So kind of like the lion to the cheetah, type of scenario on this. So a great role for your predator-prey dynamics and population oscillations we could look at. And even in the world of invasives, we know that these are an organism from the Feywild, and they're crossing over into their non-native habitat, and what are they doing to that role, and what are they removing from an environment. So I think it poses a great opportunity. There's a lot of great lessons out there. I think the classic one is the hare and the lynx activity that's out there, always available for educators. I know I've developed one for publication of cheetahs and gazelles, which is a little bit higher end of looking at the role of a mesopredator in the environment. So I think that it kind of really lets itself have that opportunity to, we can learn about these predator relationships as an invasive or as a mesopredator and its dynamics in the environment that way.
Yeah, I was also thinking the invasive route too, just from a conservation perspective. I know at the very least, Mike and I are both cat people, but I love my cats. Keep them indoors. That is,
Put a bell on them if they
but
must.
yeah, put a
Bells
bell
are
on every
great.
single
If
outside.
we can have bells on our displacer beasts.
Then they won't disappear as much. But yeah, cats are really good. Cats are really good predators. Most cat species in the wild are relatively successful predators, and they are ambush predators. And our house cats are no different. There's actually a lot of debate on whether they are actually domestic or not, or whether they just like choose to hang out with people because they can, and they're not really a domestic species. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another time. But they still hunt, and they don't hunt just to eat. They hunt for fun, which one of 3 species on the planet that do that, including humans. So making sure you keep your cats indoors or give them some sort of something that's going to make them known to the prey out there in the wild, so that you can have your cats and love your cats, and they don't kill wildlife. That would be ideal.
Yeah, that reminds me of a Reddit rabbit hole I went down also about like, why are the displacer beasts considered lawful evil? And there was this whole subreddit around, well, they're cats. So of course they're gonna, they are really smart. They do have an intelligence of 6, which is actually smarter than like an ogre or a field giant, but they love the hunt. That's like part of it for them, is they're aware of what they're doing and they're not gonna be domestic. I loved the like autonomy subtone in that like, yeah, cats are your friend by choice, but like not because you're telling them to be your friend.
Nice. We're like transfixed by all we're talking about.
Love the Wesley cameo going on.
Normally it's
Mia. Yeah.
Wow. I also think it's so fascinating that like when we decided that we were talking about displacer beasts, it looks so different than the organisms that we described, because it looks like a panther, but
Right.
but then you have those 6 legs, then you have those tentacles, and I love all the different real biology this one organism is leaning on. It's just
and
fascinating.
it was our first species that wasn't created by a wizard.
Yay!
Wow.
Look at us with our diversity.
Real organisms can exist even in the D&D world.
Alrighty, well, let's start to wrap up with just discussing any science or fantasy stuff we're into this week. So who wants to go first?
I am just now. Oh, you know what? What am I doing? Mike, you should obviously go first.
Yeah, you're
I'm
gotta describe
finally
what
ready to go.
I can go for everybody.
Lunar Fair was last night. I went to Lunar Fair last night. Had to go. But what tonight's festivity is, well, if you don't know, in the world of sci-fi, tomorrow is May the 4th, and May the 4th be with you. I am on my way to go see the Galactic Empire play. We're non-affiliated. They are a metal cover band, and they cover the soundtrack of Star Wars, and I'm going to see them. So this is my actual full Obi-Wan Kenobi cosplay, head to toe, that I take out every once in a while.
And you do have an uncanny resemblance a little bit, Mike, to Ewan McGregor, it must be said. Yes.
I feel like every time you dress up in a different cosplay, you have an uncanny resemblance to the person you're dressing. Like you just
I
have
really like to do it. I have a
Yeah, your flip fighter is really good too.
Yeah.
There was-
And you're Jamie Lannister.
Yeah, I've got a solid Jamie Lannis.
Yeah.
I just see you right now dropping out of the rafters to battle what is his name? The dude with all the lightsabers. Come on.
Oh
Oh.
no, oh no, oh no.
Grievous,
Grievous,
Grievous.
General Grievous, yeah.
Wow. Well, I picked it up last year again, and I just was not in the headspace to be reading such a dark book series, but I am getting back into the Red Rising book series, the latter trilogy. Oh my God, it is so
So
good.
good. So
And
good.
yeah, so I'm in the middle of Iron Gold right now, and oh God, Cassius, man, he's my homeboy.
He is. He's awesome. That's so crazy, Rachel, because that is actually mine too. I just picked
Oh
up
my
last night.
God.
Yeah,
Nice.
so as one of my favorite series of all time, I
Mhm.
love that series so much. And it's weird because it has it's so fast paced, so much good stuff going on. But it has elements that I wouldn't necessarily think I would like some of the descriptions and the battle scenes, which I kind of love, but I'm like, there's times I'm like, this is a lot,
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
there. But Red Rising's so incredible. So I just picked up Golden Sun again because I did a read aloud with my wife. We did Red Rising, the original, but then we stopped there and we took a pause. And I just was thinking, like, can we got to do Golden Sun? That might be my favorite. That book is
It's
so
so
good.
good. Yeah.
I did
Oh my
play a paladin that was named Pax. Because Pax.
All right, are we all in this? Did Cassie? Are you in on this too?
I'm
Severo. I
adjacent.
love Severo.
It escalates.
Yeah, you can't be around Mike and not have a reference to Red Rising every once in a while. So, like, I know a little bit, but I have yet to read.
Yeah.
It's on my list.
My
It
husband
will happen.
Jake hasn't been into a book series like the one I'm about to mention since he was into Red Rising. But if you guys loved Red Rising, I think you'll also love this series that he's in that we talk about so much that I actually had a dream about it. And I'm not even reading the series. It's called Dungeon Crawler Carl. Have you guys read that?
I've heard
Okay.
of it. Not read it, but heard of it.
I've heard of it. It's I need the audiobook to be on Libby so I can have it. Yeah.
Anyway, Cassie, what's yours?
So it was Mike mentioned May the 4th, which means it was previously May 1st, recently, which is Beltane, which is halfway to the winter solstice. So we have just announced that we're doing 3 weekends of Celtic Winter Fair this year, which is the Renaissance festival that my sword school puts on. This will be our 3rd year, and I'm super excited. I play. I'm a cast member. I'm a cast member in multiple ways. I'm a cast member at Celtic Winter Fair, and I get to be a dragon keeper who has lost a dragon. And she's also really into bees. It's when people who have multiple passions and jobs and side quests going on all the time create characters. They also create characters that also do those things. So I'm in the Royal Army. I keep dragons, and I also work at Iron Cart Farm where the bees are. So all the things are happening.
All right, folks, that's a wrap on our field study of the Displacer Beast. It turns out you don't need the Feywild to bend light and prove the real world is magical. You just need a few million years of cephalopod evolution. If you are enjoying this podcast, please cast a message spell to your friends by sharing the podcast and leave us a review to boost our charisma score. Until next week, keep rolling high, stay curious, and keep exploring this beautiful world.